In this quick video, we're going to take a look at the new template editor module for the Roofing Estimator Pro version 2.1 upgrade. What you see here is a new screen that is designed for end users to be able to make their own custom templates or reports for their customers' documents in the Roofing Estimator Pro system. The screen is laid out into three different sections. As you can see here across the top, we have the toolbox area, the template design area in the middle, and the properties section over on the right. In the toolbox section, we have different tools that can be used to be dragged onto the design surface. This section is set up into two areas. We have the sections of a template that you'll create, and also the tools that you'll use within an individual section on a report that you create. So the first one we'll look at is the page header section. This particular section type, when dragged onto the report surface, will create a page header section in your document, and you can size this accordingly, but this will be printed at the top of every single page of the template that you create for your customer. The next section you may have is a report header, which is printed on the first page underneath the page header, but is only printed on the first page of your template. So you could have different information come into that section. And then you have the details section, and that's where things such as your product items go, or customer appointment details, or what have you. It depends. It's the details section of the report. We have a footer which goes at the end of the report, and then a page footer that also goes at the bottom of every page. These 5 different sections control the pieces of output of your template and the structure of your document. So to start, we'll look at this page header section, and I will size it appropriately for 2 inches. You'll see over on the side and the top there are rulers to help guide you with the size of your page, and you'll notice that this is an 8.5 inch wide ruler on the top, and then the bottom ruler goes down to 11 inches. Inside the design surface there's also a grid of lines to help you guide your selections as you drag them and move them across the design area. So to start out, we can drag some elements up into the top of our page header. So let's just say that we want to put an image onto the top of the design surface. We just drag it over, and then we'll have our image object. Now we may also want to have our company address, so I'll bring an address block over. And that address block is going to take predefined information from your customer file that you use this template for, and we'll either take your company data if it's a company address, or we'll take the customer's address if it's a customer address. So we can configure this just by double-clicking the item, and there's some basic appearance settings as to where it lies on the document, if it has a border or colors or anything like that. But the address type is either customer or company. So I'm going to change this one to be a company address, and then I'll hit save. So now I have a company address here. Okay, so now that I've configured that as a company address, I'll go ahead and go into the image, and I'll double click on that, and that will allow me to actually choose a picture that I can upload from the hard drive, and I can go get a picture and upload it, and then at that point I can choose to use that picture, and then I have that picture on my document. So now I've got a logo, an address. I can move them around appropriately. I can also add fields and labels to the document. So for instance, here's a couple of fields. Here's a label, one and another one, and maybe this label I want to be estimate date, and I can save that, and this one I want to be, say, estimate number. And then I can take and use a database merge field here. What this type of tool is going to do is allow me to choose a specific field from the database that I want to show up here, and I'll make another one of those here. So what I'll do is I'll choose these, and I'll make them point to the estimates date field and the estimates number field. Now you'll notice that these particular items are a little bit out of alignment. The one that's highlighted in blue, I can actually hold down the control key on the keyboard and hit the down arrow, and you'll see that it starts to move 1 pixel at a time into place. And then I can just click on the top one and do the same thing with that one. If I want more movement than just 1 pixel at a time, I can use the shift key for 5 pixels at a time, which will allow me greater movement. And so now I've got those lined up properly. I can also put a line onto my design surface. And let's see, I'll move this stuff around a little bit. I don't really like that picture. It's a little too big. So maybe I'll find one a little bit smaller. Well, try to find one that's a little bit smaller. There's a smaller logo. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now that I've got the logo, I can center it over the picture using the keyboard movements over the company address, and I can take and put a label in here, and I'll change this one to have a large font. I'll call it estimate. Highlight it, put it in bold, choose a different font size and style and color, and this will be printed at the top of every one of the pages for the estimate. Then in the report header section, I'll put another address block in, but this one will be just the customer's address. So I'll configure this one as a customer address, and then the next thing I'll do is to configure maybe on this one I'd also add a couple more fields over here for their phone number and their email address, let's say. So I'll put the fields over there, and then I'll put the labels, and this one will be phone number, and I'll make one more. Now when you're out on the design surface, you can also use keyboard shortcuts to duplicate an element. So if I have this one highlighted and I hit Control-Alt-R for replicate, you will see that it makes a separate copy of that label. Then I can use my Control key and get the alignment just where I want it, or I can drag it with the mouse as well. Okay, and then the second one can be email address. Now the next section of the document is the details section. So I'm going to put a grid in here that will represent the product details. So I'll just drag this over, and what will happen is when this template is used for a given customer's estimate or job, the details of that specific job will be merged in and will replace this grid here. And then finally in the bottom section, I'm going to assign some pre-built text, and what would go here is a pre-built piece of text, for instance from your company data setup, such as your terms and conditions for your estimate or your job, or it could even be a job description or payment terms as they're defined within an individual estimate or job. You would choose those settings inside the advanced configuration for the pre-built text. So at this point I've laid out the basic elements for a estimate template to be used for customers, and I can have a look at what this will look like. I can save it, or I can get a PDF print preview. So I'll go ahead and do a PDF print preview, and we can have a look at what this estimate will look like. So then the PDF downloads, and we can open it up and have a look, and you can see that this is a PDF copy of the template that we have just made. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to drag and drop sections onto the document, and you can also configure different items into the sections by dragging them over and then double clicking on them to open up the properties window and set the individual properties like width, height, color, font size, background color, the types of elements that these will be. For instance, the addresses, we have a company address and a customer address, both using the address block. We had our image that we customized. We made a larger font out of a label. We had a couple of different labels here and some database merge fields that will come in. This one's going to be the estimate date, this one the estimate number, this the customer's phone number, and the customer's email address. Down here we had a predefined product grid that will have the items from the estimate of the job. We also have another couple of types of grids, one for a grid of customer photos and one for a grid of product photos, as you would see in the standard estimate and job contracts that print from the Roofing Estimator Pro system. We also have the pre-built text templates that come from existing areas, either the company setup, your terms and conditions, or in the individual job or estimate, the payment terms or the job description or things of that nature. So hopefully you can see the flexibility of what you can do. You have a design surface here that you can create a layout that looks the way you would like it to look to present to your customers, and then you can save this template and you'll be able to use it with your customer estimates and jobs and appointments. You'll be able to print and merge in the data for those specific customers with this document template in the future.